You are listening to the We Are West Ham podcast with me, Will Pugh, and my pal James Jones. West Ham United are through to the fifth round of the FA Cup with a convincing 2-0 win at Derby County on Monday night. I was there, so were 4,800 other West Ham United fans belting out all the old classics from the away end. Brilliant atmosphere, brilliant win. Really, first time I've actually enjoyed, looked forward to, and then subsequently enjoyed a West Ham game for many a month. So that was brilliant. But it was, of course, dampened by the fact that A, the FA Cup draw was done before the fixture, so you know who you're going to get. And B, of course, for the fifth time in 7 years, West Ham United were drawn away against Manchester United in a domestic cup competition. I'm not even joking. It's flipping boring. However, we're through. As someone wheeled out one of the age-old cliches to me when I was moaning about it in the ground beforehand. Well, you've got to beat all the good teams to get to win the cup. It's like, yeah, but we probably won't win the cup. So what I'd like to do is get some crap teams and then at least get Man United in a semi-final maybe. So you've actually done well in the FA Cup rather than crashing out in the preliminary rounds at Old Trafford once again. Boring, boring, boring. James Jones, I'm delighted you're here with me because I no doubt you'll be able to help me see the positive side of things. We switched roles a bit in the past couple of weeks, haven't we, on a few occasions. You've sort of been the downbeat, miserable, pessimistic one as far as West Ham are concerned, and it's, you know, the pressure's been on me to lift you up, and I'll be quite honest, mate, it's hard. It's really, really difficult. I don't enjoy being the James Jones of the partnership. I much prefer being the miserable, grumpy one. So yeah, I hope we can revert to our original OG roles today, and you can tell me why it's not so bad supporting West Ham after all. Oh dear.
I mean, I don't
at least be buoyed by all of our transfers, or?
Oh, I mean, I don't think you'll get a great deal of talk about. There's light at the end of the tunnel from me today. Yeah, we've only lost one in our last four. Yeah, was it 3 clean sheets in 4 games?
Yeah.
We're out, not in the bottom 3. We're into the fifth round.
We feel better already.
I mean, you reel off all of these like positives. I mean, I about 2 months ago, if you'd have said to me 2 months ago, at the beginning of a podcast, at the beginning of February, you're going to talk about us only losing 1 in 4, 3 clean sheets in 4. We're into the 5th round of the FA Cup. I'd have gone absolutely no chance, mate. Absolutely, we'd already be relegated by February. Like, so there's a positive. Like, it's a little bit of progress. It's quite nice. It's quite nice watching us play a game of football, particularly on Monday night, and kind of not feel threatened by anything. It was just quite, this is relatively straightforward, which is surprising given Derby had 19 games unbeaten going into that, and it was like the perfect banana skin for us. And normally, in years gone by, we would lose that game quite comfortably. But for some reason, and to be fair, 2 months ago, we lose that game quite comfortably. So for some reason, we
3
didn't.
weeks ago.
Yeah. So for some reason, we didn't, which is nice. It's pleasing. But having watched Newcastle against Southampton on Tuesday night, I immediately got brought back down to earth and just gone, this Saturday afternoon is just going to be a complete and utter write-off, isn't it? Like, they just look very, like, just unreasonably good for a team of very average footballers.
For a team called Newcastle, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you look at their squad, you're like, got Sean Longstaff in the middle looking like God knows who.
Prime Frank Lampard, yeah.
What's going on?
Ghosted into the box, banging them in, yeah.
Like Alan St. Maximan, he's quite good, but at the same time, he's like Antonio. Sometimes doesn't even look like he's in control of the ball, but somehow ends up being quite good. And I'm going, Saturday afternoon is just going to be a complete nightmare, isn't it? So I was positive Monday night. Tuesday night, dreading the weekend, which is not often a thing for me. I usually look forward to weekends, but not this one.
God, blimey. You know what, James? I know I said then that we can revert back to our OG roles, but let's not, because I've had a really good few days. I made my Sky Sports News debut on Monday morning. Yeah,
I gave you that, didn't I?
Good. You did. You handed that to me on a plate, yeah, because you were busy. That was superb. Really like smashing it at work over the weekend. Big back page story I had as well. Scored my first goal for Pearly Saint-Germain on Sunday.
How many appearances?
3-1 win.
Is it 1 in 200 appearances, or is it?
Yeah, to be no. To be fair, I only started playing for them this season. I would say that's probably I've probably played 8 games, but that's the first one I've played up front because I came into the team, new to the team, told them I could play up front, and our striker's already pretty good. So I've been playing a mixture of centre back and centre mid since, because I'm like the ultimate chameleon, very similar to Michael Antonio.
Putting Craig Dawson up front then.
Yeah, no, I was going to say I'm very similar to Michael Antonio, or at least I was until the goal that I scored at the weekend was from outside the box, and that was where the similarities ended. Yeah. But listen, as we mentioned to you last week, we struck up a partnership for the foreseeable future with the guys over at West Ham Network. They've got a YouTube, thriving YouTube channel indeed. Most of you, or some of you, will already know DJ Russy B, as his name is on Twitter, Stadium DJ at London Stadium, and a big part of the West Ham Network YouTube channel. We've struck up a partnership with them, and this morning I'm delighted to say that joining us just to have a chat through this first period about the transfer window, which will try and make it longer than the 4 seconds it really needs, is Russ. Russ, how's it going, mate? Good to see you.
Yeah, just about recovered. We did a bloody 3-hour live stream, and it's like, what do you talk about? It's like we were more interested about Matt Jarvis's gym workout than we were who we're going to be signing, which was just about epitomised what happened. But yeah, I'm well. I've recovered. I've decompressed. I'm okay now.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. Well, look, I mean, we did get two players in during the window, Danny Ings and Luis Yao, as James Jones so succinctly put it this morning. Luis Yao, a player who will certainly never play for the first team, but Danny Ings, I'm genuinely pretty excited about that.
Danny was like, I think Danny Ings is the perfect January transfer window signing. I think if we'd signed him in the summer, a lot of people would go, Danny Ings, and then it would until we started scoring goals. But you want someone to come in and score goals, someone who hit the ground running in January, and he was it, and literally hit the ground running and tripped over and injured himself. So West Ham, isn't it? And that's the thing. People laugh, but it is so West Ham, isn't it? Someone you buy someone who hasn't got injured for 18 months, it took him 20 seconds to get injured at West Ham. But Luis Yao, I was thinking about it today because I was doing a little sort of opinion piece, and for me, we talk about. I heard you guys just before saying, obviously Dawes going and not getting a replacement in, and sort of we're looking at the kids and Longelo and people like Ashby, and in terms of their pathway into the first team, Luis Yao, I mean, he's played a hell of a lot of games for Sao Paulo, and I know it's the Brazilian league, but still he's playing big games, and 20 years old. I think his pathway into the first team is arguably less or more simpler than maybe an Alese, for example. And it was quite interesting looking at the players we've got rid of recently. All of them, what I call traditional academy players. Longelo's been there since he was 10. I think Ashby was the same. Alese is the same. Sonny Perkins, all like kids who have come up through the ranks from literally the youth team all the way up. And we do seem to be buying these players now at maybe more of a developed stage and bringing them in. So like, the likes of Marshall and Kelly, for example, from Linfield. I think it's and we've got this sort of yin and yang, sort of this nostalgic view of the academy and what we want it to be and what it is now. And I think it's not just West Ham, but it's endemic of the Premier League as a whole as well.
I get what you're saying. So the issue I have with that, I don't have an issue with the deal, but like he's come in and automatically the club have already said he's going straight into the development squad.
Yeah,
like the way I see that is if he's any good. Then he goes straight into the first team and he trains with the first team every single day. Don't care how old he is, don't care how many games he's played for Sao Paulo. Like at the end of the day, if he's any good, the club go, no, he's wasted in development squad. We need him in the first team, training the boys.
You're right,
and we've done it in the past, like Tony Martinez and a few other players that we've got in from.
See, Domingos Queenwell went to Rotherham yesterday, I think.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Jordan Hugo and Coventry getting the bad together.
Yeah. It's like we've done this before where we've gone overseas and brought a young player in, but they've always gone straight to the development squad. maybe made the bench for the odd for the odd Premier League game, started a League Cup third round match against Macclesfield, and then just never been seen again, and ended up getting sold to Sunderland 3 years later. It's like. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I mean, he's got he's Brazilian. He's got a fancy Brazilian name. You can imagine he'd end up playing, you get 100 caps for Brazil one day, and it'd be like, oh, what a great bit of business this is. But the reality is, for me, I don't think he's going to play for the first team.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's probably me just being really negative.
You're probably right. I mean,
negative time, but
that's funny enough.
You're having a bad day, Russ. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I think we all are, to be honest. I think I went back and looked at anyone who's, because I love my stats. So I mean. I went back and looked at anyone who's made a first team appearance back until, in terms of debut, back until I think Elliot Lee, and you look at who has since gone, and you look at them, and it's like, okay, well, he's gone here. I think there's literally two players. I think there's two players who have played in the Premier League since leaving from the academy, which is Grady, and then then they went down, and I think Domingos Quina. And then Watford went down, and that's it. That is literally it. And we may in 3 or 4 years' time, as you said, might get the one we missed out on. Maybe someone like Alese or obviously Josh Cullen will be playing Premier League football next year, hopefully. But that's 4 or 5 years down the line, isn't it? We can't afford to have that development for a player 4 or 5 years down the line.
And Russ, don't you think as well? Because this is my point with the whole thing. I mean, I'm notoriously sort of miserable when it comes to West Ham Twitter, and it's not like a thing I spend sort of too much time perusing through or taking too seriously, really. But I just find there's so much fury when Harrison Ashby goes, and I know that's what Twitter is for. Like you go on Twitter, you get fury. That's what works on Twitter. I get that, but I just think it's like the same old culprits as well. Yeah. And I go on, it's like absolutely like people foaming at the mouth because Harrison Ashby's leaving. Yeah. And let's be honest, me and Jonesy, we were at the Tottenham game in the League Cup, imprisoned in the home end, and he played really well. Like, I like him. Well. It was an accomplished senior performance, right? Josh Cullen always looked okay, looked really, really okay whenever he played. Never put a major foot wrong, didn't look completely and utterly out of his depth. But, and like you said there, he'll hopefully be playing Premier League football next season, but at a fairly low-ish level, right? And Ashby, you never know. He might turn into an absolute world beater at Newcastle, whatever. But ultimately, all those names you've reeled off there, the actual percentages of players who make it at the Premier League clubs from Premier League academies, because it is literally the best league in the world now. There's so much money in it. It's so much better than all the other major leagues, like considerably so, as in strength in depth. I know, like Bayern Munich could give anyone a game, and the top teams in each of the European leagues would give most Premier League sides a game. But as far as strength and depth goes, you've got players playing for Wolves, or for example, who wouldn't get anywhere near a team who would come third in the Bundesliga typically because of the money. So with that creates an environment where to be a first team Premier League player across up and down most of the levels means you have to be better than you've ever had to be in the past, I think, i.e. to come from an academy and break in. So the percentages, we're not going to get a Joe Cole, Frank Lampard, Rio Ferdinand, Jermaine Defoe, Glenn Johnson batch ever again, sort of once in a lifetime anyway. It's not going to happen again. So the fact we've got Declan kind of means we're sort of on.
And Ben Johnson as well,
Yeah, exactly. And he's doing okay, isn't he? Yeah,
I mean,
I don't think that Ashby was considerably better than Ben Johnson. And I just think that's how it works. We've got two at the moment, or certainly one.
The furor behind the Ashby exit was the fee that we got for him and the deal that it actually was, wasn't it? It was £3 million. But I think that what people are forgetting is there's a sell-on clause there, and if he does do well and ends up being sold, then we do get a little bit more. We get more than the £3 million. We might end up making £10 million down the line if he ends up being pretty good.
So mate, he's got 6 months left on his deal, isn't he?
Yeah. And I mean, you look at. I again. I think there must have been some crap on the telly, and I had a bit of spare time on my hands. So I went back and looked at the Premier League this year, and looking at all the players who've played in the Premier League this year across all the clubs, looking at people who are academy players, and actually, when you look at players who have made at least 5 appearances this season in the Premier League. So that to me is a decent squad player. And if you've made 5 appearances in the Premier, you're not. It's not.
You're of value, aren't you?
Yeah, you're not Mbama who's made like a 10-second cameo at the end. You've if you've made 4 or 5 of them cameos, you're in the mix. Literally every club apart from I think Fulham got none. I think Brentford got none, but they haven't got an academy. The average is 2. Is 2 per per club. The only exception is Chelsea. But that's because that was out of necessity rather than need, because they needed to, because Frank couldn't buy anyone. So he did play Conor Gallagher. And now they've got money to spend. They'd rather spend 130 million quid on, what's his name?
Enzo Fernandez.
Yeah, rather than Conor Gallagher. So it's like that's going to even itself out. So, it is quite similar levels. And so you're right. I think the way I see it, and this is just my opinion, and people always criticize it, but it's almost like with West Ham players, looking at the academy players, it's like in FIFA. If you're playing FIFA, you give them like a attribute boost. So it's almost like you've given them a West Ham attribute boost. So you think Connor Coventry, oh my God, he's gone out on loan again, but he's not going to break into the first. He's not going to upset that midfield battle between Paqueta. Choice.
If we signed a Connor Coventry from, from Rennes, and he was like a 19-year-old, and that's the performances we were getting, everyone would go, well, he's not all that. He's average, isn't he? And it's the same with all of them. I agree. But so, Jonesy, what sort of positivity wise then? Ingsy, I know he got injured, and I mean, I hate Russ. I'm sorry, I don't hate you, Russ. I mean, I hate the.
It's going to be clipped, isn't it? I hate Russ.
No, I hate. And I am just a bit of a curmudgeon, to be fair. I hate quite a lot of things, but I do hate the old classic West Ham sort of trope. But even I found it difficult not to go, oh, bloody hell. I mean, literally 20 seconds in or whatever it was. But I think it's a really good signing. I think the Antonio stuff, that just seems weird. He played all right last night, but then I think, as Jonesy alluded to, I could have played all right. What do you make of our squad then, Russ, for the rest of the season? Like,
we put together, as you said, we were like scrabbling around for things to talk about yesterday, and we got a few ex-players on and stuff as usual. But literally at the end, we was like, look, okay, right, we haven't signed anyone. We've got. Unlike all the other teams below us, apart from Everton, our squad's weaker than it was before we started in January. What's our first? If everyone's fit, what's your first 11? We put a first 11 together. It's bloody impressive. Whether you play a back 3 or a back 4, you've got the likes of Igedge, you've got Skamaka, you've got Cornet, which I think is going to be like a new signing, really, and gives us a bit more balance on the left hand side. With letting Bowen on the right, The unfortunate thing this season is we've had injuries, which every club has, but we always seem to have them. But we've had like 3/4 of the squad have just fallen off the face of the cliff in the form.
Yeah,
they really have. And it's like, actually, when you look at these guys on paper, not necessarily on the pitch at the moment, we've got enough there. And this is the likes of, as you said, the likes of Mbama, Ollie Skulls. You got some boys you have some boys in the likes of Callum Marshall, you got Patrick Kelly, you got some good boys in the 18s and 21s if we needed to bring them in. I mean, for example, we got rid of Randolph and brought back Joseph Anang as sort of third choice, which is a bit random, but fair play. It's not a game, is it? To be honest, but I'm always a half glass full person. It pisses people off, but I always generally am, and we're not Everton. And if you see the meltdown of West Ham because we sold a player, Everton's meltdown is incredible last night. Absolutely incredible on Twitter and stuff. So there's always someone worse off.
What are your thoughts then, Jonesy? Russ has told us just then that he's a half glass full kind of man, which is a phrase I've never heard before. But what are your thoughts, Jonesy, for the rest of the season? Is it it didn't really? It's almost like this transfer window has kind of gone under the radar a little bit because there was so much other anger at West Ham towards Moisey and the players and each other, and the usual stuff. It was like, oh crap, we forgot to be angry about the transfers as well.
The last couple of episodes, though, we've been talking about it, debating Moisey's future and whether we're going to stay up or go down. And we've both been in agreement that absolutely no way we go down with this squad. If we go down with this squad, it beats the 2003 relegation, doesn't it? Like in terms of the quality we've got there. Like Russ is right. Like if you look at our strongest starting 11. You're leaving, even if you pick a strong starting 11, you're probably leaving out one or two players that deserve to be in that starting 11, that strongest starting 11. So I'm happy with the quality in the squad. Could probably do with a little bit of depth in certain areas. But we've had that problem forever, haven't we? I mean, we had it last season up front. It's always going to be a problem where David Moyes is concerned because he doesn't really like spending money in the middle of a season when probably the best time to try and pad the squad out a little bit when you're going for something, whether that's survival or top four or whatever. So I'm happy with it. I think Ings is a good signing. If when he's fit and if he can stay fit, then he gives us something that we've not really had before in terms of just a natural goal scorer, Premier League proven goal scorer. Not had that for years. We're always relying on a Haller or a Skamaka to come over and adapt quickly, or we're relying on Antonio to not be a right back or a winger and actually, mate, you've got to be a striker now and score all of our goals. And thankfully, he's done all right at that at times. So it's a good signing. It's just, as Russ said, it's just typical West Ham, isn't it? It's just like you sign someone and he just gets injured. And I guarantee, and I know you don't like this, but it is typical West Ham because if Danny Ings is a right back or a left back, he doesn't get injured, he stays fit. But because he's a striker and we desperately need a striker, he gets fit. He gets injured. Right, that's just the way it goes at the club. But I'm happy. I'm happy with the squad. I'm not happy with the season so far, but I'm happy with the squad.
Yeah,
David Moyes has got to make them play football now, which is a problem.
This much is true. Well, look, I think that's the. Obviously, we waited until a little bit further in the week till deadline day was out the way. It seems quite laughable that now, James, doesn't it? When we were texting saying, we'll leave the podcast this week until Wednesday just to let deadline day happen, as if we were going to do any business. No, we might as well have just done it the day after Derby game, like we said originally. But
we didn't sign.
Exactly. Russ, good to have you on. Just tell us a little bit then before we let you go and move on with the rest of our show about the partnership that we've struck up, what you guys are up to over there and how that link up's going to look like with us over the next sort of period of time.
Yeah, so as you said, you guys have got a long, well-established podcast. We've got a long, well-established YouTube channel. It just made sense to I think Jonesy called it cross-pollination last week. So yeah, that's
a bit creepy, that, wasn't it?
It does seem like really dodgy.
I didn't know what that involved. I was I'm not sure if that's what I've signed up for, to be honest.
Exactly. So we get the boys over on ours. We do lots of live shows as well as records, and similar to you guys, we obviously get a lot of ex-players. Next week we should have. We should have former West Ham player Laurent Courtois. Do you remember Laurent Courtois?
Legend. Always used to play with a wrist cast, didn't he?
He did. Laurent Courtois. We should have. He's currently coach at Columbus Crew, I believe. He'll be hopefully coming on, and we may get a friend of both channels. Might get Tony Carr back on to talk about youth team stuff. That might be next week or the week after, but we have one every week and stuff. So check it out. Obviously, we've got the stuff for the Newcastle game coming up. We'll have a same as you guys, and an opposition person coming and saying how happy they are because they've qualified. They're in the final of the Carabao Cup, and they've got Harrison Ashby, who apparently will be in the squad on Saturday. Apparently, because they've
oh dear.
Mangelo had a training ground incident and has been injured, so Harrison Ashby will be on the bench probably on Saturday. So that'd be fun. But yeah, check us out, and obviously check both boys out, and we'll be on each other's all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice one. Well, cheers for joining us this morning, Russ. Don't forget, as usual, you can follow us at @WeAre_West Ham on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Search We Are West Ham Podcast. You'll get us on there as well. And then Russ and the guys are over at West Ham Network. So I have links to all of those in the description below. Don't forget, you can buy us a pint if you wish at buymeacoffee.com/We Are West Ham's. Head on over there to check that out. Stay